The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew.
Glory to you, Lord.
Jesus began to show his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem and suffer greatly from the elders, the chief priests, and the scribes, and be killed, and on the third day be raised. Then Peter took Jesus aside and began to rebuke him. God forbid, Lord, no such thing shall ever happen to you. He turned to Peter and said, Get behind me, Satan. You are an obstacle to me. You are thinking not as God does, but as human beings do. Then Jesus said to his disciples, Whoever wishes to come after me must deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. For whoever wishes to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. What profit would there be for one to gain the whole world and yet forfeit his life? Or what can one give in exchange for his life? For the Son of Man will come with his angels in the Father's glory, and then he will repay all according to their conduct. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
So I don't read books for fun, but I did once read a fun book, and it was called Lone Survivor. It was out here a while back, and there was a movie made of it. Maybe you heard of it or not. But the basic premise is of a Navy SEAL named Marcus Luttrell, who was dropped in the middle of an Afghanistan wilderness with about a dozen or half a dozen other Navy SEALs for a special ops thing, and they were just overrun instantly. And long story short, all the guys were wiped out except for Marcus. And he was shot, wounded, I don't know what all, but he found himself in this kind of rock crevice, and people are shooting at him, and he was willing to check out if that was his lot. It wasn't looking real good, real promising. So he was just, all right, maybe this is my time. The one thing that kept him going, and I'm reading into this a little bit, it was kind of my take of it. The guy was thirsty. He was dying of thirst. He was super thirsty, and that thirst kept him going. He's like, I need water. And so he started fighting. He started using all the training he had learned, all the techniques, whatever he had to do, and started just fighting hardcore and running and do whatever he had to do. He found water, and he also was saved after days of working hard. And I bring that up today because it's that thirst that kept him alive, and it's that same thirst that keeps us alive. That thirst is what I call desire. Right? I've been talking a lot about that. Desire. Our desire is what fuels us and what keeps us going. We see that in all the big hitters throughout the history of the church. All the saints were fueled by desire. All the prophets were fueled by desire. We see that with Jeremiah in the first reading. Jeremiah, people didn't like him. He didn't really like being a prophet. He was tired of it. Tired of preaching doom and gloom to all the Israelites that were going wayward. But he did it anyway. Listen to what it says. I say to myself, I will not mention him. I will speak in his name no more. But then it becomes like a fire burning in my heart, imprisoned in my bones. I grow weary, holding it in. I cannot endure it. Right? The man was on fire. He was thirsting. He had desire that fueled him to ultimately do the Father's will. Right? It's all over the place. St. Paul is the same way. I bring that up because, in my own life, I experienced Lord, I desire to do your will. And then I hear him say, your will is my desire. Or I desire to do your will. And then I hear him say, your desire is my will. Lord, I desire to do your will. Your desire is my will. You see that? How he kind of works that way? So we need to tap into that desire that fires us up. Jesus had it, right? Jesus had that desire to do the Father's will. We see it all over the place. Garden, Gethsemane, all over the place. That was his only focus. And so now he brings it into the light. This is what my desire is, to actually suffer and die on a cross for the Father. for the redemption of the world. And what's Peter say? No way. No way am I going to let that happen. And Jesus just puts him in his place. Get behind me, Satan. And then what does he say? You are thinking not as God thinks, but as human beings think. Often those desires in our hearts are a little bit crazy, right? And they aren't always rational in the human perspective, right? So how's that look in my life? So like bucking horses at 40 years old isn't real rational, right? And my old man would get after me a lot, and I kind of had to put him in his place. Yeah, Dad, I know where you're coming from, but I got to do it, right? So it gets a little crazy, but it's fun. That's what's cool about it. So we want to tap into that desire. And how do we get there? It's my battle cry, prayer. Prayer is how we get to the heart of the matter, where the Lord speaks, where our desires are with Him, come from Him. And that takes a little work, right? That takes a little bit of practice, a little bit of effort. So that's where I'm plugging it again, our little men's prayer group that's coming up. Now, all of us, I truly believe, pray in our own way or have ways of doing it, whatever. And I'm sure it works. And we've all probably tapped into our heart's desires throughout our life in one way or another. Maybe you're really good at it. But the key is to be really in tune with those desires. So when they come, we act. Big ways and small ways, right? So we need a vocabulary, a language to get there. That's what this men's prayer group is intended to do. St. Ignatius of Antioch puts language, a vocabulary to prayer. Listening, hearing, knowing what the voice of the Lord sounds like in our hearts. That's what we're talking about. It's called discernment of spirits in a nutshell. That's what we'll be doing in this Lord Teach Us to Pray prayer group that's coming up September 13th here in Wright, Blessed Sacrament Wright, 3 o'clock before Mass. I've got a flyer out there. I'll talk more about it. But it's about discerning the will of God. St. Paul is all over it. What did he say today? Do not conform yourselves to this age, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that you may discern what is the will of God. That takes discernment, takes knowledge, evaluating. Is this from God? Is it not from God? If it's from God, take it and run. If it's not, reject it. He's got a system. We need to kind of learn that system. So that's what this prayer group is. I invite all men to it. If you cannot be here, you can tune in. We'll record the little studies that we have before Mass that day and then post them on WyomingCatholicCowboys.com blog, so you can find them there. That's the intent. This is starting September 13th. But what is really cool about that, because what's the day after September 13th? September 14th. And September 14th in the church is known as the Feast of the Exaltation of the Cross. Okay, that's not only the day that my grandpa died, but it's also a day when monasteries and different people would up their game. All right, summer's over, fun's over, let's go to work. Often those monasteries, they would start fasting. They would start, just maybe not eating meat, eating fish. A lot of those guys did that. So from like September 14th to Easter, they would do these kind of all right, let's get down and dirty in our faith. They would take up their cross, so to speak. What's Jesus say in today's gospel? Whoever wishes to come after me must deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. Okay, that's the prerequisite for a disciple. So it's always an opportunity for us to up our game. And for me, prayer is a discipline that we need to put in place in our life. Some of us do it haphazardly, some of us do it systematically. To really get to that place of our heart, that place of desire, we need to do it systematically. So I would just invite all of us to up our game this 14th, but for men especially, come to this prayer group and then make a commitment to enter into prayer on the 14th, a regular prayer routine. And I'm not saying bite off a holy hour right out the gate. Maybe 5 minutes of serious intentional prayer first thing in the morning, and then see where it goes from there. So that's the game plan. I just want to invite everyone here and everyone that you may know, Catholic or not, all are welcome. It's going to be September 13th here in Wright, 3 p.m. Before Mass. It'll be about 10 weeks. So anyway, that's my plug. We all have that desire in our heart. We just got to tap into it. It's that thirst. It's that thing that motivates us. We receive the fuel here at the altar, but we got to tap into it and hear it throughout the week. So may we follow Jesus' encouragement, the disciples' encouragement to listen to our hearts, to get to our hearts, and then be fueled, motivated by that fire of desire.